have to see it with Godzilla. I grew up on that, Generation X. We used to watch Godzilla when we were younger, and the Mothra. That movie was the bomb. Like, I can't even believe that they did such justice to that movie. Amazing, but I hadn't seen it yet. Now, let me state this again. This was during a time where we had the live on O Positives. People will call me a monkey woman. I got defensive and was saying, we're not connected to monkeys. Then they took the monkey balls vaccine, the monkeypox vaccine video off. The video was from like when they did monkey balls vaccines, right? Monkeypox. And that was like, what, 2 years ago? This video was pulled 2 a.m. while we're on Zoom. So I can see when YouTube pulls the video and blocks it. For misinformation, whatever they say, you know, they always have some excuse. And the same night I go into astral plane and I have contact with a gorilla. I don't want to say it's a monkey man because it's not, it's a full-on gorilla. He does not look like a man that's a gorilla. He looks strictly like a gorilla. Now I'm going to give you the connection because I found out who these beings are, and y'all, anyway, I want to keep on point. We have contact, the misting, she looks Mexican to me. I knew her in this state. I don't know who she is. She demisted. She's beautiful, like really, but like lethal looking, like the brimmed hat, kind of like in a stealth outfit. There were beings coming for us. And a gorilla being was with me. He had a metal thing on his left fist, like in the movie. Mind you, I didn't see it yet. And then something happened with his tooth when it came out during this time. I can't remember, the Zombies probably remember specifically. I should write these things down. I just kind of keep it in the lexicon of my movie. So we were trying to get out, and I told him, I was like, you're gonna have to open that door because we can't go out the back way. And it was too many of them coming for us. And he just literally, boom, the whole door fell. So it was me, the missed Mexican woman, and this gorilla. Okay, so kind of woke up from that and I was bugged out. Like, I was like, is this my subconscious, like bringing this image to me? And I was like, but it was real. Because usually when I'm going into astral, I do things to know if it's an actual legitimate placement, or I'm dreaming, or most times I'm lucid. So, but this was a literal place with these beings. I've never seen either one before. Didn't have a realization. I kind of just left it at that. I talked to the Zombies about it, kind of mentioned I was kind of bugged out. The next night, I'm astral planing again, but this time I'm in Mount Vernon, New York. It looks a little different. It's my old home. Big up to Mount Vernon. Many people I know, you know, I'm from Mount Vernon, New York, right? So, you know, in Mount Vernon, over by, anybody who knows Mount Vernon, Hartley Park. I used to live not too far from Hartley Park. Many of you know. So we were in like the part of North Avenue. Anybody who's from Mount Vernon, New York, you just know it's a suburb of New York City, y'all, for some people who are not in knowledge what it is. And two gorillas were walking behind me as I'm walking in Mount Vernon in this middle part. It's like a cross section where you go to Hartley Park. And they were behind me. Now, they weren't dressed up. They just gorillas walking upright, walking down the street like we were homies. And I was like, what is going on? And I look at them, they kind of just go like this, and I felt like they were my security. The way they were walking with me, it was like they were my security. Now, remember, y'all, I make jokes about it, but you know very much so, my biggest crush, and I don't have crushes or I don't have an affinity for most men on movies or things like that. I have I love very strong, alpha, very gorilla type guys, right? And when I saw Black Panther for the first time, aloha, when I saw Black Panther for the first time, no, Black Panther, which one was it? I forgot which one. It wasn't the first, no, it was the first one? Was it the first one? No, it was the second one. The second one with M'Baku. M'Baku, right? Am I pronouncing it correctly? M'Baku. And y'all, I don't care what you say. You could say whatever you want. I fell in love. Like, I fell in love with this man. I saw him in the ice tundra, and it was like the middle. You saw a gorilla's mouth open. The monkey was holding up the head on a mountain. I fell in love, y'all. I was like, that is who I want to be with. I'm serious. I never had that feeling before. And I joke about it because really in itself, you know, you think about it, it's like, why would I have such a strong connection to that look? He's strong. He's wearing like the monkey and like a monkey kind of fur on him. You know, M'Baku is like real strong. Remember, he challenged the Black Panther. Yo, I was like all in. And I think to myself, only time I realized this is that when I was having this contact with the monkey beings, gorilla beings, it wasn't monkeys, gorilla. I realized that there were a lot of things happening. And then all of a sudden, all of these things started to come about where I realized, oh my God, there's all of these movies coming out right now that are connected to monkeys, Godzilla and King Kong. You've got the Planet of the Apes coming on again, the Monkey Man. You have the reference, remember in the movie, Don't Look? What was it? No. Oh God, what was the movie with the girl and she was in the desert with the horses and this being like this jellyfish kind of alien was in it? What was the name? Monkey King, thank you. What was the name of that thing? None? What was it called? Oh gosh, what was the name? Nope. Remember the movie Nope? At the beginning scene, they show this monkey scene and nobody understood what that was about. Like if you watch the movie Nope, remember, I'm gonna ask some of you, do you remember? We could not, like we were trying to strategically, I remember sitting down strategically, trying to figure out what that first scene was about. Because if you remember the first scene, do you remember when we looked at the first scene and we were like, it was a short stint, it was at the beginning of the movie, but it began and it never was interconnected to anything else. And that to me was, Nope wasn't, I don't say it was an exciting movie, but there were things in there that I think we should pay attention to. And that first scene made me think that that was purposefully put in there as a subliminal, subconscious kind of feed it in, like some sort of MK Ultra trying to put it in their subconscious a certain way. But I think it was connected to that. Now, y'all, I'm talking about the contact right now, and it's gonna bug you out because remember, why are certain people here always talked about as being monkeys, not monkeys, but apes? Because really, if you hear in itself, if you hear the prejudice, because we'll say, oh, it's prejudice, why are brown people always called apes? They're not called monkeys, they're called monkeys, but they're always called connected to the gorillas. And then y'all, the uploads started to come. I talked to Daryl, big up to Daryl. Y'all, I realized these beings are here. Now, I had contact with them. It's heavy. And last night I had to make this video because I had contact again. And I was talking to Daryl. Big up to Daryl, Sunstar in our group. Let me explain something, y'all. And remember Donkey Kong when we play? I love Donkey Kong. Any of you used to play Donkey Kong when you were younger? I love Donkey Kong. I could play anybody. But last night I had contact with the beings again. And I say this to say that I personally think that the reason why they're setting up all this apocalypse, because remember, it's pole shift time, and it's everything came to me yesterday. Yesterday during the eclipse, all these epiphanies, all these uploads or releases of codons of information came whooshing. I mean, whooshing out like a lexicon of like everything in your cells. Waking up and I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. We've been told about certain beings and given certain names, and they've always connected brown people to gorillas, not monkeys, because monkeys, like if you look at chimpanzees, they look more Eurocentric, like the spider monkey looks more Asiatic, but they always interconnected brown people to the Kong being. And then if you remember, y'all, do you remember when we used to, like, those who are older, because my brothers might have an older brother who's like 8 years older. Remember the black and white King Kong that was in New York City? Remember they took him from the jungle where he was like in there, they were worshiping him. And then remember they took him and they brought him to New York City. He climbed up the Chrysler building with the lunar lady. And there's always this image of the big black King Kong climbing up the building with this lunar lady taking over the city and them shooting him down with the planes. I saw the one with I forgot the actress's name. I saw the one in the 80s, I think. The Empire State Building, thank you. I saw the one in the 80s where I forgot her name. She was a really popular, beautiful lunar woman. Do you guys remember her name? It doesn't matter, but she was in, they brought her and she was like a sacrifice. She was looking all sexy and they had her arms, like, remember, they put her up as like to Allura Kong because, you know, and we kind of thought it was like a sublim. Jessica Lange, she was a really pretty woman, right? Jessica Lange, did she transition, y'all? Really pretty lunar woman who played this part. Faye Dunaway was the older one, right? Jessica Lange was the one who was in there, remember? And they used her as bait to attract Kong. Like they tied her with the vines, kind of very like Jane in the Jungle kind of thing. You know how you get like Tarzan and Jane in the Jungle, kind of like that, like alluring him. And I kind of at the time thought that this was like some sort of subliminal thing to cause for brown men to be attracted to lunar women, kind of like putting that in the subconscious of the, you know, the people. But it was deeper than that because there was truth in this, and I'm gonna bring it around, y'all, because if you look at the French Polynesian Islands, I have the pictures on Zoom. I'm gonna show you the pictures I found, like these 30s. I don't know if it's 1930s or 40. Y'all, all of this information is coming out. Okay, so we have all these representatives on the movie, cinema, networking, kind of connected to, oh, Jessica Lange, she was on American Horror with the witches, right? I forgot. She still looks good, right? Jessica Lange didn't really age. I don't know what kind of plastic surgery, but it's not really plastic because she looks almost the same. You know what I mean? She looks she might be like a NPC. She might be one of those like retro, you know, Westworld kind of Robotoys that they kind of keep looking the same, but she looks really good still, right? Okay. But when I'm having contact with these beings now, at the same time, they removed my monkeypox video, same day. I had contact that night, and then we have some phenomenon that's showing up. Now, coming to bring up, I'm gonna bring in other things that connected, because when we talk about the beings that were in the French Polynesian Islands that were reminiscent of tall giants that look like monkey beings. They look like they were connected to monkeys, like the wider nose, kind of like the gorilla, not monkeys, but like gorillas, tall beings. And then I had to think of all the stories of Sasquatch, of Bigfoot, and them saying that they never tell you. That's why you got to be careful with these so-called whistleblowing narratives, because they don't want you connecting it to people that they see are depreciative. Because if you're calling people gorilla people, ape people, right, and you're making that seem like it's a deficit, it's something lower, right? You're making it seem like that's something that is a lower. You're trying to diminish someone's worth, or you're trying to create a way of seeing them as sub-tier humans. You don't want to associate something that others have an affinity for as being connected to those beings. Because when you talk about all of the museums and all of the old houses in New York and England and in France that had pictures that they've taken down of the hairy Marys, beings that had a whole bunch of hair all over their bodies, right? And then you go into all these experiments I talked about, working in the field of genetics, right? You know that you work in laboratories. I worked in a lab, and in the labs, my lab didn't work on chimpanzees or monkeys, but you know, most of your labs, and still today, they do dogs, cats, rabbits, especially white rabbits with pink eyes, but they do experiments on monkeys. Many of you used to see them back in the days. They don't show it anymore because people have such an awareness and a compassion for animals more than before. So, am I being inappropriate? Something wrong? Listen, y'all. Okay, let me just break there. I know where I stopped. I'm not showing anything. I have bosoms. Listen, I'm not wearing anything crazy, y'all. You don't see any nipples. Stop already. Please, where are all my admins? Can you block these people? Because I see it in the comments, and at first I was ignoring it, but you're disrespectful. It's disrespectful. I'm a woman. I have breasts. If a woman was flatter chest, you wouldn't have that conversation. I'm not showing anything. My nipples are far from view. This is my chest. Stop it. If you can't be mature enough to have a conversation about extraterrestrials or beings, you have a problem, okay? Why don't you cover up, okay? When you go on and you're showing your beer bellies and your nasty hair all over your chest, no one's telling you to cover up. Cut it out. Get out of the feed. I need admins. Hold on, y'all. Okay. No, I think they sent them. I really think they're trolls. Where's my admins? Hold on. I know Star is here. Hold on, y'all. I don't want to make it. Thank you for, okay, thank you. Let me see. I need to see if some of my zombies are on here. I can't just make everyone admins because I don't know everybody. Star did it, thank you. Okay. All right. Okay, I think we're fine. All right, let me go back. So we had all these museums, we also had like predated places like where you go and they had images of these hairy people, right? And you hear the stories of like Sasquatch and Bigfoot, right? Or the Yeti. Yeti's more like white fur, white hair. But anytime you've heard of the Sasquatch, you always hear that they're highly melanated in their face, right? And it's crazy because if you look at the gorilla, if we looked at an image of the gorilla, and let's say the gorilla was bigger, like when you see the front, and I'm going to show it on Zoom on Thursday, because I couldn't do what I didn't do the Zoom today. Yeah, I know, Star, they're very perverted. It's sad. No, it's not perverted, but it's like immaturity. It's like, you know, when a woman is natural, they'll demonize her, but you get people who are getting fake boobies, who are up to their neck, and obviously it's popping out and it's up in her neck and nobody says anything about it. You know, it shows the consciousness, and even with the so-called eclipse, they're not up leveling, okay? They're not even upgraded. So even the fact that males aren't able to control their self-awareness, that also shows lower intelligence, also very primal intelligence, because you should be able to overcome that, especially when the conversation is something that isn't connected to that. Okay, I'm not going to change my dress because you have a lack of ability to be able to see a real woman in presence and not be able to, you know, speak in her physical form. Okay, it's really sad. And if you have daughters or nieces or sisters, this is what you're bringing that karma to them. Because when you're unable to control yourself and have some level of maturity and self-restraint, it means that you in your life will experience that in a mirroring effect through your family. And then you'll see. When your sister comes home and says a man hurt her or hit her butt or touched her breast that wasn't warranted, you will experience it, okay? Because I'm somebody's mother, I'm someone's daughter, and I'm someone's sister, okay? So just the fact that you do that is really sad. Okay, especially if you're coming from the extraterrestrial, it just means that you're not even in that life. Okay, let's keep it going. Okay, so when we talk about the Hairy Marys and Sasquatch, and you've heard images, even when they show images of Sasquatch, it looks like an ape, y'all. It looks like an ape. I'm gonna go further, y'all. It looks like an ape. But you know what's crazy with that? Now, as I had contact, now I realize that they kept, now, even when I'm talking about like M'Baku, and in Baku, I had a super duper attraction to this being. And now there's a scene with M'Baku from if anyone can find it for me, the picture, please, I'm looking for it. They've taken away like some of the things they don't want you to have a cellular memory. In Baku, my attraction to him was so insane that I realized that when I was having contact with the gorilla beings, they are reminiscent of some beings that I must be in contact with or have some sort of alliance with because of the way they were showing up. And the fact that they showed up at a time when I was speaking about O positive, it makes me think, is there some link to the genetic DNA that's why they called us gorillas? Because really in itself, when you're talking, well, what's the howler? When I was in Brazil, the howler is big, almost like a gorilla in Brazil. When I went to Brazil the first time, I remember when I told you we were trying, big up to Paola. Paola took me to the jungle part of Brazil, big up to Brazil. And I told you there's some issue. I'm gonna go to the topic, but I wanna share where I'm building all these things from. So when we first got to Brazil, we're going into the jungle and listen, there's like off-roading, it's like floods. It's like something you see out of like Jumanji. You know what I mean? When you're like in the middle of the jungle. So we're driving in, it's crazy. It's like potholes with like big rivers in it. We're driving through and I'm looking in the trees and I'm seeing these big, huge black, these black something in the trees, like all the way up. And I was like, yo, Paola, what? She was like, oh, that's some sort of ape. But it was big and it was black, but it was up. Didn't see them very often, but I noticed when we got there, I saw that. And remember when I told you when we got to the house, it was a house that was just built. There were monkeys that the day before all the time in the house we stayed in the middle of the jungle. It was beautiful. It was across from a horse farm. And the days before, the monkeys at the house would always throw coconuts at the house, the owner of the house, right? He was every day. The monkeys threw coconuts at the house, or they would go and throw rocks at the house. So when we got there, they told me, like before we got there, oh, there's monkeys around, just give them bananas and kind of a piece to them, right? So I was excited because I was like, oh, this is good, because you coming from the States, we don't have monkeys like that. We have squirrels, rats that look like big cats. We aren't connected to that. So when I moved to the house, the monkeys weren't there. And then I noticed that there was this thing that the monkeys stayed totally away from the house. Now, this is connected for those who don't know. Hey, Delmache, those who don't know, I talk about this, and also for those, if you want to follow the journey in Brazil, I'll be documenting it in Brazil and South America soon, because I'll be back. So if you want to see that, you look at my other channel, Fleur Brun, Above the Firmament. So you can subscribe to that channel, because I'll kind of talk about, it's so much fun. That's a channel that I think is more lighthearted. You can see my travels in South America. You know, Brazil is like my first home. Remember, you know, my family is originally from North Brazil and French Guiana, which is Cayenne. So remember I talked about my return anyway. So when we went to the house in the jungle, the monkeys would not come to the house. So when the owner of the house, the builder of the house came, he was like in shock. He was like, I don't know, it's something, I didn't have dogs, I didn't have anything, and they're used to dogs, you know, stray dogs. I'm in Bahia. Big up to all my Bahians. Bon tarde. No, is it? I think it's, yeah, it's afternoon. Tudo bem? So, you know, first day we're there, he doesn't understand why it's happening. He's like, oh, okay, maybe it's because you're new. And then we were there, and the monkeys literally, if they saw us, they were running away. Like, they literally left. So in my mind at the time, because I don't know, Paola was with us, I couldn't vet it out. It's our first time in Brazil. I'm back. It's a genetic thing. Remember, I freed my grandmothers from this ethereal realm that was like sub-tier up top. It was beautiful. And, oh, somebody's messing with me. You made my earring fall out. Stop it. Okay. Rumble, my Rumble video is fine. It's just hard to upload videos there. That's why you don't see me there often. It takes too much time. And I'm a little lazy. I don't really have time to do that. So on Thursday, many of you will see I'm going to show you the pictures and the video of the Polynesian giants that look reminiscent of the apes. Okay? Why I'm going to bring this up? Because it's all interconnected. So anyway, I was in Brazil. It happened. Then I go back to Brazil. Remember, I went and moved there, right? When cucarachas came, living up there. I'm living in another house in the middle of the jungle. It's a tropical jungle. Many of you saw the home. It's beautiful. We stayed there for, I don't know, most of the year. And again, the monkeys, you can hear them in the distance. They're afraid of us. They're afraid of me. They won't come near the house. There's something to that. No monkey will come near me. So then I started to say, like, why would the monkeys be afraid of me? I'm telling you, y'all, it's coming, because I'm going to tell you why my contact with these apes is probably the reason why the monkeys in Brazil did not want to come near me. So remember, we had contact with the beings in Brazil. Also, I'm going to record the beings because they keep calling me back to Brazil. Oh, you're going to love it. I hope I capture the actual ships in the air. That's going to be a lot of fun. So again, go to subscribe to Fleur Brun Above the Rim. That's where I record all the videos in South America, because it's too much I don't want to put it here and mix everything together. So again, I'm in Bahia. The monkeys are afraid of me. They won't come near me anywhere I go in Brazil. I go to one side and then I go to the other side, an island off of the coast of Salvador. It's like 4 hours out of Salvador, an island. The monkeys wouldn't come near the facility. The people on the facility were like, there's monkeys every day. Ever since you came here, the monkeys are not coming here. So we could, listen, y'all, I could not vet it out at the time. I didn't know if I smelled differently. Sometimes pheromones are different, but there's a lot of Americans that travel, a lot of brown Americans, that, especially around Salvador area, there's a lot of brown Americans. So it's not to say like I smell differently, we're coming, I'm, you know, and my family's from the region. So why would they be afraid of me? So finally we went to the south of Brazil, more Porto Alegre and also to Sao Paulo. Big up to my Sao Paulo people. Loved it, loved it. We will be back there to go to Week Coffee. We're gonna be having fun in Salvador again. My children love Salvador, so I'm gonna be bringing the whole family there again. We went to Salvador, and there's these spider monkeys. We stayed, remember, many of you know I was in Salvador. I stayed on the mountain because it's just, you know, it's safer. Anywhere I go with the children, we stayed on the mountain up in this town. It's in Salvador, but not Salvador, Sao Paulo. It's like we stayed in a German Dutch house, like a triangle. It's beautiful. And I was excited because there were spider monkeys that would go every day, and you could see pictures and people who stay at this B&B. It's so cool, right? And these weird clicking bugs that sound like they're taking camera pictures of you every day. It's I've never seen anything like this, y'all. I've never seen anything like this. Every day there was a bug in the sky. I don't know what it was. Who's from anybody from Sao Paulo? Can you tell me what that bug was? Because I don't know what it was. Every day we go click, 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 like it was taking pictures. Every day, up in the mountains. I don't know what it was. I try to look it up. I've never seen anything. Or and they had roaches that fly that were iridescent, that glowed. I've never seen anything like that. Skinny roaches. I know it's creepy to you guys, cucarachi, but they were like paparazzi bugs. I don't know what they were. If anyone's from Brazil, can you tell me what they are, please? Because I don't know what they are. Anyway, so we stayed up there. There were spider monkeys on this house in Sao Paulo, and no, they weren't cicadas. They were flying like click, 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 click. I don't know what they were. So we were staying up in this. No, they weren't cicadas. They flew in, and when it was hottest, like normally the bugs, because it's so hot, they wouldn't fly in the heat like that. I don't know what it was. I don't want to sidebar. It was confusing. What did it say? Fleur flies? Maybe, oh, Sovereign maybe knows. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Can anyone block, Star Rose and Delmache, can you block anyone who's talking about my boobs, please? If they talk about my boobs or they say for me to undress or they say anything like that, block them, and I'm gonna ban them from the channel. So if you wanna be disrespectful, you're gonna be banned, okay? Be a man. That's why we leave the country, because y'all, men abroad, they're used to women that are natural form, natural hair, natural boobs, and they don't have a problem with it. That's why maybe the United States is being taken down, because of the lack of respect you have from women. That all shows, because if I was a woman, I'm not showing boobies, I'm not showing too much. When I walk out in the street, people are not doing that. But I live around more people who have more self-control and self-mastery, okay? So anyway, I went up to the house, and the spider monkeys that were supposed to be there never showed up. And I called the owner and I said, hey, you know, we were looking for it because we saw them. They said, oh, they come every day. They'll come up to the door and you can go and talk to them. So I waited, and every day. So the owner, I said, come over here and see if I'm bugging out. You know, he was mad cool. We were staying up in the mountain, so it was cool. He came up, and he stayed for a while because he had to fix some things in the house. And he was like, why? He couldn't understand it. Like, they would not come to the house when we were there. It was dumb. Like, that's why I say, y'all, I'm building the story of my contact with the ape beings that are here now. And it's gonna bug you out because you've been lied to, and the beings that are here, you don't realize they're here and others are coming to pick them up. Remember, we think it's the end of our cycle and we're waiting for us to wake up and be picked up. Oh no, y'all, we were not the only ones that are here. So the Olmec heads all around with the caps on, that if you look at the movie Planet of the Apes, the gorillas always have this hat that's reminiscent of the Olmecs. They lie to us. These are those beings. Anyway, so I leave Brazil. Monkeys are afraid. They won't come near the house, okay? I realize why now. When I had contact from that video I made, and maybe it was something that was blocked for me, maybe because I spoke against the apes, maybe it was something that I was defensive of, so it opens an ability for me to understand that I am part of this group. I come from a place where they come from. Remember when we talk in terms of Planet X, Nibiru, the Dark Dwarf, there's many different beings on that planetoid, that hollowed out planetoid that's a planet, but it's really a ship. There's many different beings there. So it isn't just one. But now I realize why the monkeys in Brazil wouldn't come, because I'm a higher form. I'm connected to something as them. They realize that I'm connected to these beings. It's almost like a hierarchy thing. Monkeys, animals all have a hierarchy. If there's beings that come from a higher ranking, they're going to have a certain reverence or a certain respect or a certain fear of that. So when I showed up in Brazil the first time, I never knew. I didn't have any idea that I was connected to these ape beings, gorilla beings. But in itself, it's because they knew what I didn't know. Remember, animals don't have the vaccines. They don't have all that blocking. They haven't been genetically homogenized. These are jungle monkeys. They live out in the jungle. They're natural. They aren't brought there. They've been living there generationally. They recognize who I was, even if I didn't recognize who I was. Okay? So let's go to the gorilla beings that I had contact with. So now I'm having contact. Okay, last night, the reason why I'm coming with this now, I talked to the zombies about it, so it's kind of that, but I kind of kicked it off to Daryl yesterday. Big up to Sensei Daryl, because he brought up Chewbacca from Star Wars. Y'all, what if I told you that they're trying to change the look of the beings that they know coexist and are coming back and that are actually here, y'all? I personally think they're back. That's why all these monkey movies are coming out. That's why it's all coming out at once. Remember, we're living in a simulation. So when something else shows up, the movies, because it's part of the simulation and programming, it will show up to kind of veer you off of thinking it's real if you really see it out, okay? So next thing you know, we have Chewbacca. Now, it was Sunstar Darrow, because I can't take credit for that. He was like, maybe that's a Chewbacca thing. But when you listen to M'Baku from Black Panther from the comics, you know, because remember, I didn't know, some of you gentlemen are more into comics and DC and what's the other comics? The characters like from your books, right? You knew about M'Baku, which was connected to the gorillas, right? Marvel, I didn't know them because I'm a girl, I'm a woman. It's maybe, unless I was into that, I wouldn't know. The guys know, because men know this. Like even when I talk to the exes, they know who M'Baku is. But you don't think it's ironic that the name M'Baku is very close to Chewbacca? I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's specifically spelled the same way, but do you realize M'Baku and Chewbacca have a very similar sound to them? And that when you had the Chewbacca, who showed up, many of you, big up to everyone who's into Star Wars. We're Star Wars, I come from that, that background. So Star Wars, you always see Chewbacca was like, the way he said it. But if you listen to the sounds that Chewbacca makes, it's very reminiscent of what a gorilla kind of sounds like. And now I realize that we've been gotten, y'all, the images of the Olmecs that are all over North and South America, y'all. In the Americas, y'all, I'm coming there. If you look at all of the Olmec heads, they have this helmet on. Why in the Planet of the Apes are only ones wearing the helmet are the gorillas? How come? If you look at the wider nose, kind of like mine, if you look at the round faces, the darker skin, and those helmets, why do they look like the gorillas in Planet of the Apes? Why? Why is that image shown up? Okay? They don't make the leader of the Planet of the Apes the gorilla. They make the chimpanzee, which is more Eurocentric. The one that had the green eyes, Caesar, right? Caesar's the one who was the different one, who was the hybrid, who was blended with the mankind, right? So he had more compassion for the mankind people. But the ones that they always make to demonize in Planet of the Apes, at least a modern version, are the apes, the gorillas, which are the strongest. They're used as the soldiers in the movie, and they always have those helmets. They have the Olmec helmets, y'all. They have the Olmec helmets. They tell you without telling you, and they demonize the character because they wanted to go into your self-conscious. So when you come on here and you call me an ape woman, I automatically get defensive. But when I see a movie like Black Panther and I see M'Baku, I'm instantly attracted to him because that's a being I come from. I know where they come from. When I showed up and I was triggered, whatever came open, sometimes it's weird sometimes that you have these, These things that happen to you when codons, we talk about codons opening, memories opening within your cellular component that allow you to realize the truth of the reality you live in, things that are probably dormant and blocked. When I came in and talked about the O positive has always been demonized, y'all. And if O positive is linked to North and South America, remember, who's connected to the Olmec societies? You had it all in the Americas. The Olmec heads that were covered. We talked about Dr. Deborah Blair's the last live where he talked about a trucker that took on a lunar trucker's route in Virginia. And he went into an underground tunnel with the truck, and he wasn't supposed to because they did not want brown people seeing that they were covering the Olmec heads with concrete under those tunnels in Virginia. You got all these Olmec heads all over North and South America. And in Cambodia, the places where they demonize them the most. And I'm going to go into why do they call it guerrilla warfare up in Vietnam, and people are afraid. They were talking about what was going on in Vietnam, okay? The places that they demonize Asians the most, like if you think of the monkey being that's connected all in Cambodia and how the Cambodians were literally destroyed and decimated and tried to be genocide. And then you have that connection also in Vietnam. And then don't go into India where they have a being that they worship that's a monkey being over in the area where it's the darkest Indian people. Y'all, I personally now know that everything that we've been told is a lie, and it's a misdirect. The Olmecs are the gorilla beings that I'm in contact with. They're not gorillas, they're a being. It's a being that we've seen. It's been demonized, it's been marginalized, it's been connected. They told us that's what we come from, but they may have not been wrong. They may have not been wrong. It's not monkeys. There's a sub-tier monkey that's more hybrid, more human, more mankind-like, but the gorillas are something different. And if you look at the beings over in French Polynesia, y'all, it will make so much, they're giants and they have what considered to be ape-like qualities, what you called a gorilla kind of quality. You know, with the extended head, you know, ever see like the little bit bumped head like the gorilla has like this? How come a lot of children, brown children, come out with that coned head, especially back in the days? You see like people like Usher, who had that, you know, that kind of elonged head. They call them the tetras. They'll say they're tetra beings. The tetras have that like that coned head. Also, you'll hear a conversation with people like with LL Cool J. Remember if you know LL Cool J? Many of you know LL Cool J. Remember LL Cool J used to wear the Kango all the time, and we knew it's because he was hiding his cone head. You know what I mean? He was cute back in the days, but he always wore that. He never took his Congo hat. Those may be some sort of sim-tier group that still has a lot of that genetic quality from that group. And many children, especially children from the Afrocentric, I don't want to say African because Africa is somewhere different, but really in itself, we might be correct because maybe this is Africa. This is Egypt. And we're going to talk about the 10-2 and P. Diddy coming out with the list, what's going on, the 4 X's that literally could be 410. We're going to kind of talk about that, but let's keep on the same thing. LL Cool J had the cone head. A lot of brown children that are born. I remember when all of our babies, and I think but Lunars did not, let me ask Lunars. Lunars, I don't know if had that same quality of having more of a cone head, because when our children were born, we were always told to shape the head because of the, the birthing path, the birthing path. Sometimes children have the elonged head from going through a narrow canal when you're giving birth to them, right? But remember, a lot of us, but I noticed with my lunar girlfriends that had children, and that's why I want to ask you, my lunar girlfriends that had children, they didn't really have that much of an issue. Like all of my brown girlfriends that gave birth even before I had children, they all were told to, lunars are what you perceive as white people. I don't call people white and black because it's silly. It's not. Lunar is kind of like a lighter skin, illuminated skin, and melanated people or brown people, I call them by the complexion. I'm more of a copper color. Calling people by white and black is like it's doing the checkerboard thing that the Illuminati force upon us, and the whole duality, polarity thing. I kind of spread it apart a little bit, make it a little more respectful. When we talk about the concept of brown babies when they're born, you see that a lot of times they have the head that's kind of coned. And I realized my brown girlfriends and my lunar girlfriends, the lunar girlfriends didn't have that issue. So now I have to retract the statement, y'all, because now I realized that Willy Wonka and his League of Doom, these tyrants of information, these Nazis that are literally some form of some sub-tier humanoid or AI-based humanoid mankind that has created these narratives to basically hide an origin of beings. And it wasn't until I went to Brazil, y'all, that I could put all these pieces together. Because you say to yourself, I can't, this is why experience trumps reading books and just taking things from other people's opinion and videos. That's why I always tell you, stop watching videos. Even when you watch mine, you do the research. The reason why I'm able to get all of this information and bring it all together is because I travel a lot. So I get a lot of experience. I read a lot of books, so I get a lot of reference. I came from a field of genetics and heredity, so I have a lot of that clinician background. And then I have a lot of friends that work in a lot of different types of fields, so I can bring that information. That's why wisdom is gained through a lot of different aspects, not just one. You can't look at videos and verify. You always have to do the work. If I hadn't traveled to Brazil and experienced the obvious distance that the monkeys came from me, why would they do that? Because if I was an ape type being, wouldn't they be more connected to me? No, but if I came from a galactic sector where those beings were higher in ranking, they would keep a distance out of respect and protection. Y'all, I'm here to tell you that the gorilla type beings, they're here. That's why all of this lexicon of monkey business, monkeypox, maybe they were putting the DNA inside those people to make them more appeasing to what's coming here. Why do I think they're here? Because all of a sudden, that information was released inside of me. It was all released. The Omex, the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, the Chewbacca, the M'Baku. When I saw M'Baku, and that's why I say, oh, I'm asking you, can someone get, obrigado, I know. Can I get someone to, sea monkeys? Oh, we're gonna go into that too. The sea monkeys and the underwater. Remember they told you like the monkeys, the sea monkeys that come from the mermaids? This is all interconnected. But can I get someone to get me the picture? M'Baku has a scene. I cannot get it. They hid it. I think that's why I felt such an attraction. I know that it triggered me, a memory, and I think when it did that, they took out that scene. I can't find it. I probably have to watch the movie again, and I tried to take pictures, they've taken it out. There's a scene when M'Baku is inside of his lair, his castle, and it's an opening of a mouth of an ape. And on the bottom, the ape is holding it up like this, like you see in Cambodia, like in gold, but the mouth is open as ice. I cannot find that scene, y'all. Can someone get a picture of that? Y'all, I know that's what triggered me, because when I saw the scene with M'Baku, I literally felt like that was the man of my dreams. I know it's crazy, y'all. And you're saying, oh, Fleur, when you're over the top. It's like the male in my life that I've been connected to or expecting or attracted to, he comes from that background. I know it for a fact. I haven't ever watched any movie like that. I haven't ever seen a show like that. Even with Planet of the Apes, I didn't really have the connection, but it was that scene when M'Baku was sitting in his chair, in his crown seat, and the mouth of the gorilla is seen. It's like a scene, it's like icy, and he's wearing like the fur of the monkey on him, and he's in there and he's sitting in a seat. Y'all, if I could not tell you any difference, because I'm very particular about males, but I like males that are very strong and assertive and have that burly kind of behavior, like they can do what he does. That attraction was it was like a trigger. And I realized now that that was what literally I was feeling. It was a crystal. It was a crystal, yes. Twinton, it was ice, maybe it was crystal. You might be right. It was a crystal mouth of the opening scene. Can someone find that? Because I could not find it. That was what triggered me to be attracted. It was like a whole thing, everything together. But what I'm gonna go back into, why are they covering up the Olmec heads? Why in the movies that we're watching are literally the Olmecs who have the same thing, the wider noses, the wider faces, look reminiscent of what they consider to be gorillas? Why would I have contact with gorillas when I started talking about, the not being related to apes? Like I said, I literally had the O positive conversation with you guys, right? And then as I'm talking about the conversation with you, all of a sudden, everything, because I'm being defensive, right? So they always call black people apes, right? But in itself, where do they get that reference from? Because you got to ask yourself, why is it only brown people they call monkeys or apes? Because if you see monkeys that look Asian, European looking, you see monkeys of all different kinds of back. Like if you look at some of the monkeys, you can see Asian people's faces in it. You can see lunar people's faces in it. You can see brown people, Indian people. You see all of them. But why was it only linked to brown people? And why was it only linked to a certain kind of look of brown people? Like it wasn't like the regular apes, the monkeys. It was like always the gorilla that it was very reminiscent of. And then when I look at all the Olmec pictures, and then I saw, listen, what did it was when I saw the giants. Thursday, I'm gonna show the Zombies. I'll show you the pictures of the Polynesian giants and how they looked. And I was like, oh my God, that's what it is. When I went to Brazil, I should have known, but I didn't know where it came from. And then I had contact with these gorilla. Listen, I don't care if you call them apes, they're apes, but gorilla, they're specifically gorillas. And they literally were walking with me as if we had a pact, like we were part of the same, we came from a place where they were backing me up. Like, why would I have that just now? Especially when I had a live on YouTube that was literally in dispelling that. And then also, why would on the same night, all of a sudden on the same night during our Zoom, 2 a.m., big up to the Zombies in here, 2 a.m., they would take off the monkeypox vex. Now, was it YouTube who did that? Or was it the beings? Because then I had the contact. Hold on, y'all. Then I had a contact with the gorilla, the one and the misty Mexican woman. And people say, how do you think you're Mexican? I'm around Mexicans a lot, and you pick up the energy or the frequency. So the mist woman who was with the gorilla that I was with, she was a mist. Listen, I haven't ever experienced this. I haven't ever seen this. She just turned from like a green kind of mist or a yellowy mist into this beautiful Mexican woman, but she was more a stealth. Like she had the rim hat, slender figure, kind of like, it was like an old 20s. Like she looked like she was from the 20s or 30s. You know, like almost like she had a trench coat. You know, like the very fine trench coat on. I can't explain it. But it's very, it's fitted to her body, very stealth-like. Like she could move in it. Not like a trench coat that was just there to wear, but something that was form-fitting to her body. She was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But she just turned from this to that. And we worked together in a group. And it made me know, because everything's relative in your life. I have different groups of people that feel more connected to me. It doesn't say there aren't a lot of different people that feel connected to me, but whenever we talk about genetics and heredity, people are connected to people who have a likeness to them, whether it's frequency or, frequency and vibration, obviously. But genetics matters. Like it's the same reason why you'll be attracted to men who have a pheromonic harmony with you genetically. So there's some men that I'll see and they're very handsome, very good looking, just like a man with me. And I will see him and his pheromones will literally make me take the time to sit with him more, or to listen to him when he talks to me, or me be more receptive to his captivation or his allurement of me. Same vice versa. Like even with a partnership with exes, they always said it was my scent that was irresistible, the way I smelled. And it wasn't when I had perfume or anything on, it was literally my scent. So we are very pheromone harmonic people. We don't realize it because, of course, your Willy Wonka, your medical systems, they don't ever want you to talk about it. They don't want you to talk about your blood type. They don't even put it on your birth certificates anymore, because that's something they want you to mate non-harmonically. That's why a lot of children have a lot of genetic abnormalities and deficiencies, because people are just mating with people that they shouldn't be. Okay, so smell matters. Okay, it's the same with the beings. But I noticed that within my realm of people who are more allured by me, they tend to come from places where those apes also have connections, like where the Olmecs are. Big up to our Mexicano people, like in Mexico. Like I'll go to Mexico and there's always a connection. And I always say it's more because I'm Carib and we're cousins to our Incan and our Mayan family. How is because in the Caribbean, because remember I came by way of South America, but also went into Central. My mom had to remind me. That's why when people say, when you say where you're from, I said my first language is French, right? Because my mom and dad from Martinique and St. Lucia, but they came by way, my mother was a first generation from that area because her mother came from French Guyana and the tip of northern Brazil. So, but they came by way of Panama. That's why I have family in Panama. I have family in Martinique, Guadeloupe, Dominica, and it's in Venezuela. Well, they moved from Venezuela a while ago, but that's why I have such that connection. But the Mexicans, Mexico's a really big, country, beautiful country. Big up to our Mexicanos. Mexicans also have connection to the Olmecs. And if you look in Mexico, the Mexicans who look more reminiscent of me, more morena skin, more copper skin. The women have the same eye setting, maybe more slanted, very busty. I'm more reminiscent of that kind of genetic group because we are mixed with those people. It's like a genetic mixing coming through the Caribbean and, Central America is right there. Okay. Cartagena, which is in Colombia. That's why in Colombia, you have a lot of things that are reminiscent of our Carib people. So big up to our Colombianas, right? Colombianas in here because Colombianas, you see the women, we're all interconnected. It's because we're all in that line of travel. The Americas, we're from the Americas. I always talk about a lot of us are from the Americas. And those brown people, when they told you came over from Africa, first of all, I think Africa is here. I think Egypt is here. I think they lied to us. And they told us that Africa was over there. Africa in itself, and y'all, let me make an apology to my African diaspora. I kept saying 40-something countries. My daughter, I love that my children, I'm so grateful. I kind of expanded them. My daughter had to correct me. She said, no, mommy, it's 54 countries, but it could be 55. So big up to our African diaspora, who it's 54 to 55 countries, y'all. Do you realize that that's like the majority of this planet is Africa, what they call Africa over there? But I also think that Egypt and the Nile River, that's all in the Americas. I think they lied to us. That's why I think they call us African Americans because that's where Egypt was, ancient Kemet. And ancient Kemet, most people don't realize Egypt is a Euro-sized name, a Europeanized name. It isn't what it was called ancient Kemet, and it meant the land of the blacks. So, when people say things like that, why would they call it the land of the blacks? Because that's who was living there, okay? And you couldn't tell me that how come you have pyramids over there and you had pyramids over here in Central and South America. If you go to Chichen Itza in Mexico, if you go all into Central America, if you go into Guatemala, if you go into like Grand Canyon, why in Grand Canyon did you just see a whole pharaoh with scarabs and gold all over them in the Grand Canyon if this was in Africa? Why would I look outside and look at the mountains? I'm seeing giants petrified and they look like Egyptians all in the mountains. Why do you see all that? So in it itself, oh yeah, the mummies in Utah. So I personally think that's why I say be careful and expand your consciousness. When you start going further and stop leaving your brain at the capacity of what has been socially engineered to you through false education, purposefully meant to mind control you and make everything opposite of what it is, you're going to realize that this over here in the United States is Egypt, is what you consider to be Africa. Africa in itself is another continent, but that might be reminiscent of ancient Sumer. You know what I mean? The ancient Sumer area where that was another, because remember when we were Pangea, all of the planet was in one piece in Pangea. Nothing was split. So when you talk about Africa's massive. That could be what Pangea was, like the original Pangea. And I think in anything itself, you had the beings over here that were only in the Americas, all in South, Central, and the Caribbean and Americas, because the consciousness is high in the United States. When we talk about consciousness, you got to think. Beings have higher consciousness. They come from a more celestial or more connected to the galactic sex. That kind of intelligence does not come from coming more primal or more primate based. When we talk about primates, you think of them more sub-tier, but if we have beings that are insectilian. You have smaller aspects of those beings showing up, but also you have advanced beings that are insectilian that look reminiscent of the ones that are smaller. Okay? So the fact of the matter is, big up to Oz. Oz just left a message on my phone. Big up to Oz. He transcended, but I tell you, Oz is taking care of our group. So when you talk about these pyramids and what shows up, I personally think, like, even yourself, like, why would you name certain places, like, why would you name them Egypt and Greece and Cairo? Like, you'll go into, like, upstate New York, you'll see all the names. Like, it's kind of interesting. And maybe it's purposefully done. Maybe it's not by chance, but why would they do that? Why would they do that? And the consciousness of the beings out of all of the planet, the most conscious beings that have a kind of heightened awareness. And I didn't realize how we're perceived by our African diaspora, from our European diaspora, from our Canadian diaspora, from our Asiatic diaspora. When I go into the other countries, there isn't any higher consciousness than what is in the United States. There isn't. When you go in there and you start to see the awareness, that means that there is some sort of, this must be ground zero in the United States, because it initiates higher consciousness. Beings are, because if you go in places like China, how come no one's really conscious? We got a homegirl in Vietnam, nobody's conscious. The only consciousness that comes is when it's initiated in the United States, or it's being perpetuated to other countries and they're picking up on the consciousness and it's elevating them. So why? I'm not saying we're the best and so on, but I'm saying the higher conscious beings that are heightened in awareness to what is relative, or where we come from, or the different kinds of inception or things like that. That's really being initiated in the States. I personally think that this in the United States is ground zero. It is a pre-program. I think what happened in Egypt is happening again here. And I think we're going to see the exodus. We talk about the 410, the 10-4. And I'll talk about that now, because with the solar eclipse, I gave you a picture of during the lunar eclipse that not only did the Baltimore Bridge, and it was called the Key. Remember, the bridge in Baltimore was called Key, that was broken down, okay? But on the same day, you had P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs' house being raided by military. But it was crazy because the only aerial shot they kept showing was the woman's figure in the middle of 4 X's. So it was the first thing I noticed. So I knew that was what they wanted us to see. They may be talking to one another, but we saw it, like I saw it. I was the first one to see it, and I said something's up with that. So I looked at it, and I was like, okay, X is a Roman numeral 10, but everything's named X's. And why is there 4 of them? And then I said, ding, ding, ding. Do you guys remember when we had the whole thing on 10-4 with the calls, they were doing a testing on the phones and to call everybody on 10-4? 10-4 is like 10-4 is like a message. Remember that? And we all turned off our Wi-Fi in the house during that time. But remember, the dark Kabbalists, even AI work in polarities. We live in a polarity system here. 10-4, and now we're going to 4-10, right after a major solar eclipse, okay? And the reason why it's interesting is because during the lunar eclipse is when Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, shows up in his place, and you see the 4 X's, which literally could be 10, right? So 4 10s, okay? So 410 could be, and also when you look at, let me ask Yafi, the story of Passover is when they are about to leave Egypt, right? Because they leave Egypt, and that's when Egypt pays for its crimes against the Jews. And if you remember, big up to M, we found out that the word Jew literally means free. You know, this concept of like, the Jewish people coming out of Egypt and they're doing their exodus out of Egypt at the time they were being enslaved. Who has been enslaved, y'all, in the United States? Who's been enslaved? And them freeing up all of the atrocities and everything like that. Who's been enslaved here? So it's about the exodus. So I personally think, like, if they're going to do anything, if it's a program and it's literally a cylindrical pattern that goes on and it's a program and it's literally going to play out, something is going to force for the slaves, those who are abused in Egypt, to leave the exodus. Now, it might play out over in the Middle East, which is also Africa. Remember, before they renamed it Egypt, Middle East, that was all Africa. That was North Africa. So Israel, Jordan, Syria, Morocco, Egypt. That's all Africa. That's all northern Africa before the Europeans came over there and separated Egypt from Israel. That's all Africa. And they probably did it so that you didn't think that Jesus was from Africa. Like I would think that, we live in an establishment, they'll do something like that. They created this, what is it called? The Suez Canal, the canal in between Israel and Egypt. Is it called the Suez Canal? I forgot the name of the canal. They probably separated it so you would not associate Israel with Africa, okay? What is it called? What kind of canal is it called? I forgot what it's called. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But Suez Canal, okay, or sorry, Suez Canal. They probably did that purposefully, okay? And also, remember, we're playing with polarity. So what happens in the Middle East, if we're considering that to be Israel and Egypt, is going to play out over here because it's duality. Okay, so now you have the Egypt on this northern hemisphere and you have Egypt and Israel on the other side. So you're seeing it play out. Okay, you're seeing when Israel was infiltrated by all of these people that were coming in hostile. What are you seeing in the United States? You're seeing all this hostile people coming in. So you're seeing a play out of the dualities playing out. The war that Israel is going on with Palestinians and Israel. You're seeing that play out here also with the wars that the United States is doing on multiple ends. Okay. But if I had to call it out, I would say that if we're in a simulation and a programming that happens the same way all the time, there's going to be an event that comes around 410, just like 10-4 was the message. It plays in duality. Something big may happen. Maybe they hit the United States, maybe Iran. Big up to our Iranians. Because I know, listen, people always talk about the Iranians. So you do realize our governments are not us. So when I talk about the Iranians, I know we have Iranian C-Star on our page. She's such a sweetheart. She's so pretty too. She's on our page. I know a lot of Iranians. They aren't hostile. So remember, when we talk in groups of like Palestinians, Iranians, Israelis, Americans, do know that we aren't our governments. So when I talk about people, I'm talking about the government, right? Just know. So when we talk about Iran, because Iran has really smart people, really sweet people. I've met them when I've traveled. Do know that when we talk about in regards of things happening governmentally, it doesn't really play to the people. Now, people may feel a certain way, like when Israel was hit and on October 7th, and they felt a certain way, it's because even if their government did it, the people will feel violated. You have to understand that. I think they don't, just like with 9/11, it's the same thing with 9/11. It's when 9/11, regardless, because we know what 9/11 was. It was an inside setup by our own governmental system. That's my opinion, okay? We know what that was. But at the time, those from New York felt violated that something like that happened to them. So they automatically wanted all of the Afghanistan to die, all of the people from the Middle East to pay, people to pay for the deaths. There was a lot of deaths. And when you have people who feel connected to that pain and that loss, they will vilify someone else. So you got to be careful, because a lot of times what the government does, it plays on your emotions. They do things to set you up, like they did in the United States. They do it in Ukraine. They did it in Israel. They do it in Palestine. They did it in Africa, Sudan, Congo. They set it up. And then you take on their vilification of another place based on them setting you up to make you feel like that. That's why we got to be careful. So when I talk about, when I'm talking about Iran, it would be in play that because Iran felt violated from Israel hitting I think it was their consulate in Syria, if I'm not mistaken, they feel violated. So there's going to be a counter. So they already hit Tel Aviv and Israel, and they said they're going to get the Americans. So this is all a play out of biblical, Talmudic kind of like, religious jargon. It's a program, okay? So if I was a betting woman, I would say on 410, if we're playing in that biblical kind of like Egypt having a reason to leave, the pestilence, remember that happens in Egypt, that's the cicadas coming out of, even though cicadas are sweet, please don't kill it. Please refrain from hurting the cicadas. They don't hurt anybody. Please, they're going to come out in the trillions. What's a billion cicadas coming out all at the same time? They're meeting the same cycle. Ones that come out at 17 years and 13 years, they're all going to meet, and they're coming out at the same time. It's like, please refrain from hurting them. They're